in the secrets that we keep between the internecine spectacles that we make out of our awful and palate-filled kitchens and dinner theaters, what happens between the fulsome embraces that aren't oregano pepper or aren't masked with the kind of deflective masculinity that we find appropriate to the occasions where we're going to put something stiffer than antlers on our feet? I think that it's the measure of a man how many buckles he can stand on his cummerbund. And if you're gonna say, well, I didn't have space for the frankincense and myrrh before I had the gold, what use is the gold? The things that require camphor aren't the things that bleed. And so if there's a crowd of people and you feel that your elbows have been worn raw because all of the things that you prognosticated actually seem to be kind of minor lickspittle to the individuals that made up your nightmares when you were forgotten by the people who picked the teams for kickball, it's gonna be like the legless embrace of chairlift. It's gonna be like the time that you thought your nose was your ankle. And those, when a cat is diminutive, it's either a kitten or it's what I guess you could call a dwarf cat, but I guess you would call it these days a little person cat, or I guess just a little cat. At any rate, the condition that was formerly called dwarfism, when it's apparent in a cat, it creates, when we talk about the uncanny valley, we're talking about the distance between a digital simulation of a person and an actual person, and how there's a familiarity and an unfamiliarity at the same time, and it creates a uncanniness that can be disturbing. And when you see something that is basically the size and almost the shape of a kitten, and yet it is also clearly in fundamentally important ways an adult cat, there's an uncanny valley of cuteness. And it feels as if the little strings of your heart that are plucked are being in some way misappropriated, as if there's a piracy of affection. And so in the category of affection piracy, we can say maybe we fill these people with thimbles, and maybe we fill these people with ostrich feathers. And either one of these times, you're going to find that you never have enough cake. And when you need to arrange the chairs in an auditorium so that they can seat both the obese and the profound, you have to measure, well, what kind of allotment does intellect require? The seats in an airline, right? They have seats of various widths, and you see the advertisements like, oh, you can stretch out in our seats, but they don't have special seats for those of profound intelligence. They're like, oh, you could really get some good thinking done in our seats, or you could really have some trenchant observations in United. Fly the trenchant skies with United. So these are well-worn synonyms for docket, and to bring these briefs into facile consistency that couldn't be used for a butter or a pudding or any kind of spread that you might put on toast, or a gravel-like toast, something that had been made to appear toast-like by one of these recuperative artisans, and then they take the things that they remembered from the times when they had a nanny and it stroked their hair in a way that they always wished their mother would stroke their hair, and then they lost the nanny, and that stroke, that touch that would be forever longed for and could never be recaptured, because not even in the case where were you an adult and you were able to find that nanny, neither of you are in the same relationship. Even if they were willing to, like, oh, I'll stroke your hair, the nanny and you have dribbled in your own dribble glasses for far too long to be able to have a rapprochement of affection or a recapitulation of a childhood gesture that created a formative sense of the contours of tenderness. Thanks for listening. Comments welcome.